Welcome to the deep dive. We're diving into something today that might just completely change how you think about money financial independence.
Not just surface level stuff, dude. We're going deep,
Yeah.
like your money or your life deep.
Exactly. The book by Vicki and Joe Dominguez.
Their 9-step program, it's legendary. And with Mr. Money Mustache writing the foreword for the second edition, well, I mean, that tells you something right there.
Oh, yeah, the second I saw that forward, I was in. I knew this deep dive was going to be fascinating, and it definitely delivered. First off, that whole idea of money as life energy, I was completely hooked. Have you ever, actually stopped and thought about it? The hours of your life that you're trading just to earn money?
Most of us never do we? It's a total perspective shift.
For sure.
But Joe Dominguez, he was a financial analyst, retired at 31, really nailed it with this concept. I mean, every dollar, it's a piece of your life energy, those precious hours you spent working.
Makes you think twice about those impulse buys, doesn't it?
It does. And speaking of impulse buys, remember that story about Dominguez almost burning a $100 bill during one of his seminars?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was floored by that.
It really shows you how tied up our emotions are with money.
To think that someone would even think about destroying money like that, I mean, it's
Yeah.
wild, but it makes sense when you start to see how much our beliefs, our feeling,
Our habits.
yeah, they influence our decisions around money.
Exactly. And that kind of leads us to another big idea from the book, the real hourly wage. This was huge for me personally.
Okay, yeah.
It's not just your salary. You got to factor in all those hidden costs of having a job.
Okay, so what?
Think about commuting.
Right.
Those work clothes you only wear once a week.
Yep.
Even that extra glass of wine you need to unwind after a stressful day.
Oh, definitely. You know what? I actually started crunching the numbers after reading that section, and it's kind of crazy. It really makes you realize how much we're spending. Not even just money, but time, just to go to work every day.
Almost like we're paying to work in some cases.
Wow. That is a sobering thought.
I've got to ask,
Yeah.
what kind of impact did that whole real hourly wage thing have on you? Did you calculate your own?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I won't bore you with the details, but let's just say I'm looking at my morning coffee runs a little differently now.
Totally. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
But that kind of awareness, that's what this book is all about. It's
Yep.
about being more mindful and really getting what our spending is costing us.
For sure. And that brings us to this other thing, tracking every penny. I'll admit, I was a little skeptical about this at first. I thought it seemed a little tedious, maybe even a little controlling.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah.
But they're not saying you got to deprive yourself. They're saying be aware.
Okay.
The goal is to make spending categories that fit your life.
Yeah.
Not just some generic budget template.
Right. And some of the categories they suggest are pretty funny, like gazingus pins for those impulse buys we've all done a time or two.
Oh, yeah. Or like beauty and aesthetics and personal growth. It's all about making it personal.
Yeah.
And understanding your own patterns.
Right.
Because no two people are going to have the same ones.
Right. It's like a personalized financial fingerprint.
Totally. And once you've got that clear picture of where your money is going, then you can start making more conscious choices.
Okay, so we're tracking. We know our real hourly wage. What's next?
Well, that's where they introduce this idea of the fulfillment curve, which is where things get really interesting.
Okay, yeah. I'm intrigued.
Basically, the fulfillment curve shows you that point where getting more doesn't actually make you any happier.
It kind of goes against everything we're taught in our society, doesn't it? More money, more stuff equals more happiness.
Exactly. But your money or your life is like, hold on a sec. What truly fulfills you? And there's this great story from their seminars back in the 80s where they found that people, no matter how much money they made, they always wanted 50% more to feel happy.
50% more, regardless of how much they were already making.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
Wow. That just shows you how we're always chasing enough, but can never seem to catch it.
Right. So are we ever really satisfied?
Yeah.
Or are we just always looking for that next thing, that raise, that new gadget? It really makes you think about what you value and what you're working towards.
And I have a feeling that leads us right into the big one, the ultimate goal for so many people, financial independence.
You got it. FI, as they call it, is basically the point where your monthly investment income is more than your monthly expenses.
So you're making enough passive income to cover all your costs, meaning paid work becomes optional.
You got it. And it's really important to remember, FI isn't about being rich. It's about freedom and choice.
Right.
It's choosing how you spend your time and energy instead of being stuck working just to pay bills.
And they make a really good point that this isn't just some fantasy, right? Like, they share stories of all kinds of people from all walks of life who made it happen. Frugal couples buying their dream farmhouses.
A hotel maid whose income literally went off the charts thanks to the program.
It's inspiring, for
Yeah.
sure. Shows that FI is possible for anyone willing to put in the work. Okay, so we've talked about money as life energy. We've talked about tracking our spending, the fulfillment curve, and now this big idea of financial independence. But how do we get there?
That's where the 9 steps come in.
Right, the 9 steps.
It's a roadmap, not a get-rich-quick scheme. And there's some really surprising counterintuitive ideas in there.
Give me an example.
Well, like the idea that being frugal doesn't have to mean you're depriving yourself.
Right.
It's about spending mindfully, making sure your purchases actually match your values,
I like that.
and getting creative about saving without sacrificing your quality of life.
So it's like conscious spending instead of just mindless consumption.
Exactly. And then there's this idea of separating work from wages, like redefining work to include all those meaningful things you do, volunteering, hobbies, anything that brings value.
Okay. So it's not just about the paycheck, it's about building a life that's rich on multiple levels.
Exactly. And of course, investing is a big part of the FI journey, but not in the way you might think.
Oh, how so?
It's not about picking risky stocks or trying to get rich quick. It's about building a strong foundation for long-term passive income.
Which is what ultimately gets you to that crossover point.
Exactly. So I'm curious, from this first part of our deep dive, what really stood out to you? What made you think differently about your own money habits?
Honestly, it's that whole money is life energy thing. So simple, but it's powerful. Really makes you stop and think about what you're spending your precious time and energy on.
I totally agree. It's a complete game changer, and it can have a huge impact on your financial choices and ultimately on your whole life. But we're just scratching the surface here. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll break down those 9 steps, all those counterintuitive insights and practical tips that can help you totally transform your relationship with money and get you on that road to financial independence.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork. We've got some pretty mind-blowing concepts under our belts. Money as life energy, the fulfillment curve. And now it's time to get into the nitty-gritty, right? Financial independence and those 9 steps. Let's unpack them.
Let's do it. And remember, these steps, they're a roadmap, not a set of rules you have to follow to the letter.
Okay.
It's all about finding what works for you and how you can adapt these principles to your life.
Gotcha. So, step 1, figuring out your real hourly wage. We touched on it earlier, but I think we can go a little deeper here.
Absolutely. This step is all about brutal honesty, like really being honest with yourself about how much you're earning for every hour you're working.
Okay.
And remember, it's not just your salary divided by the number of hours you work.
Yeah.
You have to factor in all those hidden costs.
Right. Like commuting, work clothes, those lunches out because you just don't have the energy to pack one.
Exactly. All those little expenses that can really add up. And once you know that real hourly wage, it can totally change how you see your spending. Like suddenly that $20 lunch doesn't seem like such a good deal when you realize you had to work 2 hours for it.
It's all about perspective.
100%. And that brings us to step 2, tracking every single cent you spend. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Oh, the dreaded tracking. We talked about this before, and honestly, I'm still kind of hesitant. It seems like a lot of work. And what if I find out things about my spending habits that I don't want to know?
I get it. But seriously, this step is super important. And it's not about being judgmental or feeling guilty. It's about awareness. Just understanding your patterns so you can make better choices. You might even surprise yourself.
So you're saying it's more about self-discovery than self-punishment?
Exactly. And remember, the book says to make categories that reflect your life.
Right.
Like those gazingas pins, the beauty and aesthetics, categories that speak to you.
Exactly. Make it fun.
Yeah. Make it your own. Find a system that works.
Okay, step 3, the monthly tabulation. What's that all about?
This is where we put all that tracking data to work.
Okay.
We analyze our income and expenses, look for patterns,
Gotcha.
plug any leaks in that financial ship.
So it's not just mindlessly tracking. We're actively using that data to make sense of things.
Absolutely. And this is where things get interesting. Because in step 4, we start connecting our spending to our values.
Ooh, okay.
We ask ourselves some big, sometimes uncomfortable questions.
Lay those questions on me. I'm ready to get uncomfortable.
Okay, first question. Did you receive fulfillment, satisfaction, and value in proportion to the life energy you spent?
Whoa. That is a loaded question. I don't even know where to start with that one.
Think about it this way. You look at each expense and you ask yourself, did this bring me joy, satisfaction? Did it add to my life in a meaningful way?
So it's like, was it worth the hours of my life that I traded to earn that money?
Exactly. It's not just about the dollars and cents, it's about the emotional impact of your spending too.
And that's deep.
And then second question, is this expense in line with my values and what I want my life to be about? This one really gets to the heart of things, I think.
So, like, if I'm spending a ton of money on clothes, but I say I value experiences and travel more, that's a sign that my spending isn't really matching up with my priorities.
Bingo. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about noticing those disconnects and making adjustments.
I'm starting to feel uncomfortable already.
Okay, ready for question number 3.
Hit me.
How would your spending change if you didn't have to work for money?
Ooh, that's a good one. Makes you think about what's really important.
Right. Like, would you still buy that expensive car? Eat out as often? Or would you spend your time and energy differently? This question really helps you separate those needs from the wants. Start picturing a life where your choices come from passion, not just necessity.
That's awesome. Like a mental test drive for financial independence.
Exactly. It's all about shifting your mindset.
Yeah.
And that brings us to step 5, which is all about creating a visual for your journey. The wall chart.
Ah, the famous wall chart. I've heard whispers about this. Tell me more.
Well, it's basically a big graph, right? And you plot your income and expenses each month over time. It's really powerful for seeing those trends and understanding where you are financially.
So it's not just about the numbers themselves, it's about watching them come to life.
Yes, seeing that gap between income and expenses start to close.
I like it.
And as you go through the steps, as you start making changes to minimize expenses and maximize your income, you'll see those lines on your chart start to meet.
It's like a visual representation of your progress.
Exactly. And that can be incredibly motivating. Okay, step 6, minimizing expenses and maximizing income. This is where we put on our financial ninja suits.
Let's do it.
Get creative, find those hidden opportunities to save money and boost your income.
And I know the book has a ton of practical tips for this, Rick.
Tons. From negotiating a raise to DIY projects to embracing the sharing economy.
Wow.
They encourage you to think outside the box. Find what works for you.
So it's not about cutting back on everything. It's about being smart with your money, living a fulfilling life without breaking the bank.
Yes, aligning your spending with what matters most to you and making sure every dollar is taking you closer to your goals.
Love it. Okay, step 7. Valuing your life energy, shifting your focus from just consuming to conscious spending. This one really speaks to me. It's like breaking free from that always needing more mentality.
Absolutely. Finding fulfillment in experiences, relationships, rather than just accumulating stuff. Ask yourself, what brings me joy? And make sure your spending reflects that.
So this step is all about being aware, recognizing those times when we shop as a reward or maybe to avoid feeling something. And then finding healthier ways to meet those needs.
Exactly. It's about making conscious choices, aligning your habits with your values. All right, step 8. This is where things get really exciting. The crossover point.
Ooh, yes. Tell me everything.
That magical moment when your monthly investment income is actually more than your monthly expenses. You've achieved financial independence.
The freedom.
It's the result of all that hard work. Your passive income is taking care of your needs, so you have the freedom to choose how you spend your time and energy.
But how do we actually get to this crossover point? It's all about making your savings work for you, right? Generating passive income. But I'll be honest, this is where I get a little lost. What exactly is capital and how does all this work?
Great question. Think of capital as your nest egg, the money you've saved and invested.
Okay.
And the book has this super simple formula to calculate how much monthly income that capital can generate based on the current interest rates.
So it's like your money's working for you, earning you more money even while you sleep.
Exactly. And as you keep saving and investing, your capital grows.
Yeah.
And that monthly investment income line on your wall chart, remember that, starts going up, up, up.
Until it crosses that expense line and bam, financial independence.
You got it. It's a visual of your freedom. But they don't stop there. They also introduce the idea of a cushion, basically having 6 months of living expenses in cash, like readily available.
So like a safety net, just in case something unexpected happens.
Exactly. Peace of mind. Knowing you can handle those financial bumps without panicking. And then there's the cash. That's your savings above and beyond your core capital and cushion.
So it's like your financial fortress.
You could say that.
Yeah.
And it builds naturally as you keep practicing these steps. Okay, on to step 9, investing for financial independence.
This is where it all comes together.
This is where you build a strong investment portfolio that will generate that passive income you need to achieve FI.
But investing can feel intimidating, you know? There's so much jargon, so many options. Where do you even begin?
Don't worry, the book breaks it all down. It's a really clear, approachable guide focusing on long-term, low-risk strategies.
So no get-rich-quick schemes.
Nope. It's about building a solid foundation and letting your money grow steadily over time. And they talk about aligning your investments with your values. Even discuss things like ethical and socially responsible investing.
So your money is working for you in every way, financially and ethically.
Right. They cover index funds, bonds, even real estate. They break down those complex ideas into simple terms that anyone can understand.
Wow. Those 9 steps, they're a pretty comprehensive roadmap, wouldn't you say?
It's a complete game changer. And it's not just about reaching financial independence. It's about transforming your whole relationship with money, reclaiming your life energy, spending consciously, building a truly fulfilling life. But there's one more important piece to this puzzle that they explore: natural wealth.
Natural wealth. This is a new one.
It's about all those non-monetary things that contribute to a rich, meaningful life.
Okay.
Your skills, relationships, connection to your community, all the things that truly enrich your life.
So it's recognizing that real wealth goes beyond just what's in your bank account.
Exactly. It's about building a life that is abundant in all areas. And they make this really interesting point. You can actually inflate your natural wealth faster than money by investing in your skills, nurturing relationships, being part of your community.
It's like diversifying your portfolio. But instead of just focusing on stocks and bonds, you're investing in yourself, your relationships, your community.
Exactly. It's about creating a life rich in experiences, connection, and meaning, not just material things.
And this ties back to that idea of money as life energy, right? It's about spending that energy wisely, not just on things, but on what truly nourishes your soul.
Absolutely. And, the book also talks about some of the challenges people might face along the way, like crossover point jitters.
Yeah.
Some people get this as they're getting close to financial independence.
Crossover point jitters. What's that all about?
It's that fear of the unknown. Like, what will life be like without a traditional job? Some people worry about losing their purpose, their social connections.
You can see that. It's a big change.
But the book reminds us that FI is about freedom and choice.
Okay.
It's about designing a life that truly reflects your values.
So you have the option to work because you want to, not because you have to.
Exactly. And that's powerful.
So we've covered a lot. Those 9 steps, the ins and outs of financial independence, even touched on this intriguing concept of natural wealth. I feel like we're just getting started, though.
You're right. There's so much more to explore. And in the final part of our deep dive, we'll bring all this together.
Oh, yeah.
We'll distill it down to those key takeaways and practical strategies that you can start using in your life today.
Wow. What a journey. We went deep into financial independence, explored those 9 steps, even got into that whole natural wealth thing. I'm still thinking about it all.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot to take in. But that's the thing about these deep dives, right? You got to let it all sink in, figure how it all applies to your life.
Oh, so true. So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's try to pull out some key takeaways. For me, that first big shift, viewing money as life energy, was huge.
Oh, absolutely.
It's such a simple concept, but it makes you think about every financial decision differently.
Right. It's not just about dollars and cents anymore. It's about consciously choosing how we spend our time and energy.
Exactly, like finally understanding the real cost of what we buy.
Yes.
And once you have that mindset, then tracking your spending becomes something totally different.
It does, doesn't it?
It's not about feeling bad. It's about awareness. It's about understanding your patterns.
And making sure your spending reflects your values.
Right, exactly. And remember those personalized spending categories.
Oh, yeah.
Gazingas pins, beauty and aesthetics.
Those are fun.
They really make the whole process more engaging.
And personal. It's about owning your finances.
Yes. Understanding where your money goes, making sure it's supporting the life you want to live.
And speaking of that, that brings us to another big takeaway, that fulfillment curve. It really throws a wrench into the whole more money equals more happiness idea, doesn't it?
It does. It's about recognizing that there's a limit to how much stuff actually makes us happy.
Exactly. It's about figuring out what enough means for you and then focusing on the things that bring you real joy.
Whether that's spending time with people you love, pursuing passions, giving back to your community, whatever it is, It's about finding those things that make you truly happy that aren't just about buying more things.
I love that. And then, of course, we have to talk about that big goal for so many people,
No.
financial independence,
Right.
reaching that crossover point
Yes.
where your investments cover your expenses and you have the freedom to choose how you spend your time.
It's amazing, but it's important to remember financial independence, it's not the end goal.
Right. It's a stepping stone to a more fulfilling life.
Exactly. And that's where natural wealth comes in. It's about cultivating those things in our lives that money can't buy.
Like our skills, our relationships, our connection with nature.
Yes.
It's about recognizing that real wealth is way more than our bank account balance. It's about living a life full of experiences, connection, and meaning.
So true. And the best part is, building this natural wealth, it's often easier than we think, isn't it?
It is. It's about those little things we do every day.
Yeah. Learning something new, helping out in your community, just spending time outside. It's about enjoying the simple things and appreciating what we have.
I love that. So as we wrap up this incredible deep dive, I got to ask you, our listener, what's sticking with you? What's that one thing you're going to take away from all of this?
Now that you know money represents your life energy, those precious hours you've traded, what are you going to spend it on? What will you invest in?
That's a good question to think about. And remember, this isn't about making huge changes all at once. It's about small steps, consistency, and slowly shifting your mindset and habits over time.
Exactly. Start where you are and go from there.
And if you want to keep exploring all these ideas, we highly recommend checking out Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez. It's packed with wisdom and practical tips to help you change your relationship with money and create a richer, more fulfilling life.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of financial independence and natural wealth. We hope you found it as inspiring as we did.